Let's go.
Easy, good morning.
Would you say decent morning?
Good morning, Easy GM.
Good morning. We've got a full 13 game slate, as big as it gets. The gods have blessed us with halfway through the season. Every single team plays. We got an all play. So a lot to cover.
Indeed.
Yeah. I guess we'll go through. Let me start with like an overall slate. My thoughts on this slate. I feel really good about this slate, so I think I'm going to win everything. I don't know why I highlighted your comment. I meant to just unclick. And then there's a lot of good running back plays, a lot of good running back value. There's a lot of good, like the mid range at wide receiver is really good. Quarterback is getting condensed at the top end, and people are punting off with McBride. So like it's going to be a very chalky slate, and there's a lot of chalk that I like, a lot of chalk that I don't like. Yeah, how do you feel overall about the slate before we get into like the chalk stuff?
I actually feel surprisingly good. I feel like it's been pretty gross for like a couple weeks now, and even though we have a very large slate, it feels good. I feel like pretty condensed and like what I think is going to happen. I feel good about it, and it's a great day for me to lose a slate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. Let's start at quarterback. The chalk, Lamar and Hurts, pretty much. Maybe Purdy and Dak. Can you give me like one or two that you like? One or two. Let's start with like. Who do you like among the? Let's say Lamar or Hurts. Do you like either of them?
I like them both. I think it's hard to poke any holes in this chalk here. I'm slightly tiny concerned about Jalen's knee, but I think it's going to be fine. And this makes sense. These guys should be owned.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to poke holes. The only thing, like, if I had to poke a hole, like maybe it's like the Hurts knee, and like these are not super competitive games, so that would be my only, like the Ravens ran it up against the Lions, but I think that they were expecting more pushback from Detroit. If the Ravens get up early against the Cardinals, they might not, keep the foot on the gas the way they did last week. But the only thing, they're still, projecting really well. So yeah, anything you like, then I guess maybe not pivots isn't the right word, because at quarterback, no one is going to be super high on anyway. But who are like one of your two of your favorites outside of Lamar and Hurts?
I would say it's probably Purdy is probably the main guy that San Francisco's lost 2 games in a row. They've kind of been knocked down a notch. Debo's still out, and I think Shanny's good. Cincinnati, is definitely beatable, and I think Purdy's in a nice spot, under 10%. I like that. And then I would just point out real quick that in my view, Dak is pretty bad chalk. I do not like to play Dak around 10% ish.
Yeah,
in a game that could be weird. So I'm not on board with that.
Yeah, I agree. I like Purdy as well. 9% would surprise me, and maybe I'm wish casting because I really just hope to get him cheaper.
I agree.
This link in the chat. I was hoping he'd be like 5-6%. It doesn't really matter a whole lot. And then the only thing that I would do is like if I wanted to be like different from the field, is just play cheap guys. Like Purdy would be fine, but also like I don't love Kenny Pickett, but like Sam Howell, I think it's fine. I also like Desmond Ridder as well, just to say like I'll spend $3,000 less at quarterback and just hope that your guys are in blowouts and they don't have to have to push it. So I'm just going to flip it.
One other guy that should be in your pool at least is Gardner Minshew. Like I'm totally cool if people want to play him. I know he isn't going to rush for touchdowns, but they're going to run a million plays, and
Casey, do you think 9% is less than what it'll be? Because it's hard. Like,
no, I have Brockett like 5-6%.
About right. I think it's probably about right. But yeah, I've got him optimal up to 11, so I think that anything around that range is probably fine. At running back, we've got a lot of good mid to medium high priced. Brees, Kamara, Pollard are probably the tier 1 chalk, and then I think it's Pacheco and JT. I'm not even going to talk about CMC. CMC is not going to be this high owned, I don't think.
No, he's not.
I think I could see it condensing around these top 5, and JT. It looks like Moss will be in, so he's not as chalky as he might have been. But of these top five, let's say JT and up on this list, you have like two that stand out to you, or three, or
Yeah, I would say that up here, Kamara stands out the most, especially with new Michael Thomas injury report stuff. You know,
yeah,
it's like even more targets that could go Kamara's way. I forget who in the industry said it, but it's the only slight concern is that Jamal Williams pitch count and Kendre dinged last week, so they
yeah,
allege
I got
that
that.
that increased his role. If that goes down, you don't like that, but you know, it could be offset by Michael Thomas being hamstrung. So, you know, I think Kamara is good chalk. It's gross, like I get it. It's not cool, but I think it
Yeah,
makes sense. Brees makes sense to me, though it's a little bit more fragile, I think. Just, you know, in that game, who knows what's gonna go down there. And I do not like Tony Pollard this week. Shocking, surprise, surprise.
yeah. I do prefer Pollard ceiling over Kamara. I think like
I would
this
agree with
this
that. I would agree with that.
yeah. So if I'm playing GPP, I'd rather just play Pollard. Like I understand Kamara can definitely get there, and he has probably run bad on touchdowns. Like he's
Yeah.
definitely left some ceiling on the table. But Pollard's red zone role is probably the best in the league, or way up there with the CMCs and whoever else, like Ken Walker, like the hyper elite. And they're projected to score more points. Like so, I like Pollard. Really hard for me to get away from Brees as well. So I guess by default I have to be low on Kamara, but like I think Kamara's got the best chance of 20 from this range, but I think Pollard's chances of 30 um, lead me in that direction.
That makes sense.
And yeah, I think you can easily get away from Pacheco. Chalk, I think he's just like a reluctant last guy in what's probably a good matchup, but and like the role has been pretty good, but um like the risk of me being buried by Pacheco, I'm not like super worried about that. I'm very fine playing him in cash as just a GPP if he's going to be
Yeah.
20ish% owned. I'm not really worried about him beating me.
Yeah, I forgot he was in this group. I am not on board with 22% Pacheco.
Yeah.
I don't like that chalk. Just his, yeah, agreed.
Yep. And then any low on pivots that you like here?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few guys here that I really, really like this week. Because, you know, mainly for the flip to build purposes, because you could see very clearly like how this slate is shaping up with the mid tier wide receivers and stuff like that. So, you know, when we talk about other slates like flipping the build, then in my opinion, what that means for this slate is you got to take a really good look at like Chuba in that game, Chuba and Dame Pierce. Like I like
Yeah.
those two guys a bunch. And then I do even think that you're fine to get a little gross with like Cam Akers, Gus Edwards, and even Justice Hill, you know, in a blowout or in a weird game and stuff. At the price that those guys are, if you want to find a expensive receiver, I think those guys are in play for the flip build mode.
Yeah, I think conceptually I'm aligned to just like who are the names. Like I think,
Yeah.
yeah, if you can guess right, it sucks obviously that Chuba and Sanders. I think they're obviously in a 55-45 type timeshare. I think Chuba probably gets the first crack. And yeah, like I think it's sharp. Finding a 4,800 or cheaper running back. I think I like Chuba and DeMarcado. Yeah, so Cardinals RB 2 carries 2 weeks ago. Yeah, so like this is one where if he was chalky, I would want nothing to do with it. But because he's going to be, this
Yeah.
has 8%. Honestly, if I had to bet, I would bet the lower, definitely not the higher here. So I think it's not a good matchup. Like the Ravens are like I always want to play guys against the Ravens, and I think that's just wrong. Especially on a team as bad as Arizona, but just like a roster construction, I get it. I don't know that there's ceiling there. I'd rather shoot for ceiling with a Darrell Henderson personally, where the Rams offense can be good and is likelier to find themselves in the red zone. And they've shown a little bit of using Darrell Henderson throughout the years. No Trent Williams. So
That
that's interesting. That
sucks.
definitely hurts like the Purdy stuff a little bit.
Yeah, that sucks.
And it might have a trickle down to like Kittle as well if he ends up having to chip a little bit more, but we'll get there. Yeah, I think that's sharp. Other like low owned guys that I like want to briefly touch on, like Swift. at the same price as Pacheco, for half the ownership, and you're giving up 1.5 points of projection is a smash. Bijan at 10% at 6K is really good. Like he's finally priced right for the role, but then at some point maybe the role actually becomes good. And then
Yeah.
ETN is a direct pivot off of Pollard and Kamara. I'm not going to go there, but wouldn't fault you if you did. It's probably sharp.
Yeah, my only question with Bijan is like, what is his share like in actual raw numbers of like 24 plays? Because that's probably what each team's going
Yeah,
to run.
yeah, understood, understood. All right, let's get to receiver. Receiver ownership is like fairly flat because there's not that, like, in the past few weeks we've had like Tyreek, Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, like Cooper Cup, all in good matchups. Like none of the top guys are in great matchups, except for AJ Brown. I guess we'll get there, but you see a lot of these 4 to 5 Ks, and I think that's just a reflection of how this slate is going to play. And we've seen that. It's been one of the popular talking points I've heard on many shows, and I'll echo it because I've been saying it too. Is like the way that you win many slates is like these 5K receivers that like one or two of them score 30 points. And now you've just, beaten Jamar Chase outright with, Nico Collins, for example. It's happened multiple times already this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's start. Let's put Chase and Brown aside for a second. Flowers, Dell, Nico Collins, and Josh Downs. And that 4,800 to 5,600. You like or dislike anyone from those four?
This is a tough one for me. I never want to say I dislike Zay Flowers because I think he's a amazing talent, and his share, everything about him's been really good. But at 22%, Zay Flowers in an offense where Lamar is going to run, Lamar can score touchdowns on the ground. They're going to want to run the ball with Gus. You've got Mark Andrews out there. Like there's a lot of ways that this thing can shake out to where he just has a nice 17, 14 point game or whatever. So when the whole field has him at 22%, and I think even higher, especially at higher stakes,
Yeah.
I'm gonna want to try and I'm gonna want to be different there. I just I totally get it in cash. He is the play. He is the best play of the slate, but I don't like this spot at 22%.
Yep. No, I agree with you. Like I've been high on Zay Flowers. He's not popped for like a giga ceiling yet. Looked like he might have been on his way last week, but then they took their foot off the gas. But I could see that same thing happening again. So like the bear case on like why not to play Zay Flowers into a bunch of ownership, I think makes sense just because they might not be pushed, and I think like he comes preloaded into cash teams, and you can stack them with Lamar just very, very easy. So I'd encourage you to think about what you're doing. If you're playing like the Zay Lamar, which I am, but in GPP, I'll probably want to flip a couple things around. Do you like Dell Nico then?
I do.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that you want to play those two guys together because of a point I'll make in a little bit. But I do think they're really good plays on paper. Carolina's really, really bad. However, I expect the game to remain at least semi-competitive just because, Houston's still up and coming. They're not going to just annihilate people. But, I like them. And I like Josh Downs a lot. Like the more I look into Josh Downs' role and stuff, like 3 weeks ago, I'd have been like, oh, yeah, you guys and your rookie receivers, you love this young Rots, but he's growing up, like, and his usage is there, and playing the slot against New Orleans is the way. And I like him.
Yeah, I will say though, receiver is very flat, both A in projection and B in ownership. So it's like nothing is like crazy here. All right, and then we'll just real quick at the top between Chase and AJ Brown, pretty much the same price. I mean Chase projects better. I'm gonna IKB that and say I'd rather just play AJ Brown.
100%. I don't think you could play Chase on the slate. Personally, I just can't do it. Can't do it.
Anyone under let's say 10% that catches your eye here. We do have to scroll down to find those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think the two main guys that I'm looking at for lower ownership that are in really, really good positions, in my opinion, is Cooper Cup. Nobody wants to play Cooper Cup at
It's
9,000
hard.
after what
Yeah,
he
you
did
can't.
last week. It's difficult, and how last week went, and Puka just will not stop. But I could tell you a story about Cooper Cup, and I'm excited about it. And
Mhm.
the other one is Calvin Ridley. This is another
Yeah,
one of the two established shows that just
yeah,
when you really look into Ridley, all of the work is there, all of the opportunity is there.
yeah,
Nothing, everything is there except the result. So that those are the situations you want to kind of stick with,
yeah.
if you can, and
Yep.
I will be there.
Yep, I'm all over Ridley as well. I also find myself because like all the way at the top, right? We talk about Zay Flowers, Dell, Bourne, Nico, Downs. Like, I think all of those are good plays, but like, can you? Ridley's a good example, but like a guy like Christian Watson, how often he gets there is certainly less often than Zay Flowers. But when he gets there, does he hit harder? I think the answer is yes. Then you have T Higgins is someone that I like as well. 49ers have been slightly less dominant of a defense, maybe more than slightly, honestly. Like they gave a bunch against Cleveland. They will be at home, but yeah, maybe this game could be more competitive and you have T. Higgins finally healthy. Last one for now will be Chris Olave. If Michael Thomas is out, he probably gets steamed up, which would worry me, but this is a big pace up game. We'll talk about it. Olave, usage, everything is there except it's the same thing as the Calvin Ridley. Like everything is there except for the long catches.
Yeah,
Tight end is pretty much the Trey McBride show. Yeah, that's pretty much it. At one point, it looked like Kittle was going to be like super low owned, but I think that was just wrong. This 8% feels fairly correct. I guess just like, do you like Trey McBride? I can answer on your behalf and say no, but you can tell the people
yeah. You
yourself.
you don't have to. I mean, we can, shit in his pants, slow off the ball aside. 23% for 2,800 Arizona tight end Trey McBride is just bad chalk. I agree. You have to play it in cash, most
Yeah, yeah,
likely. But yeah, not good chalk. I do not roll him out in tournaments, in my opinion.
yeah.
Yeah,
To me, like if I'm playing McBride, it would be to do something that the field is not. So, for example, like I actually don't even hate McBride with Kelsey. The Sims keep giving me two tight end stuff, and I keep not playing it. So I think I might this week. So McBride and Kelsey, or paying up for a guy like Tyreek, who is not in a great matchup, but is low owned. A guy like Cooper Cup, who might be an okay matchup, but is very low owned.
yeah,
A guy like Christian McCaffrey. So like, if I'm gonna eat the McBride chalk, I want to get off. You know,
for sure. I
the path. Like you can't play a 2v2 versus a cash lineup in like a
well,
large field.
one thing that I thought was interesting that they argued on well, they didn't argue, but they gave opposite viewpoints in the established shows. Is Dink said if you play Trey McBride, you need to play Kelsey Kittle. You need to play an expensive tight end. Do not play two shit tight ends. It's already hard to hit one tight end, you know. So
Yeah, yeah.
don't play two shitter tight ends. And then Wiggins advised, like, if you play McBride and Ferguson, the stuff that you could do, which I disagree with. I think that's bad
Yeah, no, I don't like
process.
that at all. I think you
Yeah.
need, if you're playing two tight ends,
You need ceiling and
you
you
need
need
one of them to have a 20
reliability.
point ceiling.
Yeah.
I think. Um, Maybe it's different, but yeah, I think you're just like you're fighting to uphill there. Pivots, like I don't know that I would call Ferguson a pivot per se, but I really do. I was hoping he would not be chalky, but he is. Like I do like Ferguson in a spot. He's gotten a lot of red zone end zone targets on Dallas, and they're often in that position. They probably will be.
Yeah.
Um, and I like Kittle too, but
Fergus.
again, like they're not super low owned. Like I'm not getting too off the wall at tight end.
Yeah. Yeah. Ferguson, I was very excited like Monday, Tuesday before starting to see this ownership. Just, Dallas coming off the bye. Ferguson disappointed in his last game. He only got one target. He was basically invisible. And I felt like coming out of the bye, they're going to be like, okay, we've really kind of had a big Ferguson role and that went away and let's get back to it. So But I do want to throw in one low on pivot since this ties directly to receivers and I haven't clicked this button yet, but um, Dalton Schultz at
I knew it.
3,900
Yeah.
is not going to be
Yeah.
owned. Everybody wants to play this Houston
Yeah.
passing game and
Yeah.
stuff. So this is like a
Yeah.
total smash spot that
Yep.
is a great pivot
Yep.
for your tournaments.
Yep. Yeah, I'm actually looking like I was getting 20% of Schultz in so my first run stuff. I think that's like it's a good pivot off of the Texan stuff, and also if you're playing like the Stroud doubles, which we'll probably just go talk
Yeah.
about in a minute. I think he makes sense. Defense, like we don't need to kill it here. I think like the Falcons, like at 20+%, are probably a bad play. I understand, Will Levis is likely to be bad, but I don't think Vrabel is going to really allow him to be bad, or he's going to try very hard to handcuff him there. So yeah, defense, you can kind of just play what you want. Like I wouldn't fault you for playing Falcons, but I think Jags at 100 less against Kenny Pickett are very fine. I think Vikings are very fine.
Yeah, I'm impressed with the Vikings. I can't get away from the combination of how good the Vikings have looked for a few weeks straight, along with how bad Jordan Love just seems to be. Let's go, especially under siege.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into the games here. And then I think we might have time to make a lineup, but it is 13 games, big slate. Saints are at Indianapolis, 43.5. In Coors Field. I've got this one showing as like a big pace up. Obviously, it's something everyone's talking about. The teams are two averaging about 70 plays each per game versus, in the mid to low 60s, probably average. Kamara, we talked about. Dennis Allen did say like they were worried about Kendry's shoulder. Jamal was on a snap count. Michael Thomas illness. We'll see. We've got this is like an interesting game where I think it's a good game environment, but the Saints defense is pretty good. So it worries me. But the Colts have like played well against good defenses. Like I think there might be something here.
Yeah, I think their coaching staff is #good. Like those guys are good. We saw it last year with the Eagles, just the way they run things, and they seem to be bringing that over. Whatever they have to do to have success, they seem to be willing to do it. So I'm getting a lot of Josh Downs in the slate. Josh Downs and Alvin Kamara are my two primary plays from this slate. Rashid Shaheed is a great cost saver, especially, he's the hidden guy that I don't even know if Michael Thomas going out really steams him that much because people are going to want to play more Olave, Kamara, and nobody wants to play Derek Carr. So Rashid Shaheed should be sneaky. And, of course I'm playing Downs, and a fun way to play a little bit is, to do a Minshew Downs with something coming back and try and spend up in other places. I'm doing that one time. It's not a strong position.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. I think Olave, I would really love for Olave to stay under 8%. I am worried that enough people like this matchup and everyone hates Michael Thomas. So even if Michael Thomas is in, I think your average DFS pro will happily just say, Michael Thomas is gonna just give his targets to Olave. People have been excited waiting for Olave for a while. So in that scenario, I do like the Rashid Shaheed call as well. It's the same matchup that he runs a very similar, deep route tree that Olave does. And we talked about the Kamara chalk. I don't love playing it into chalk. And then Jonathan Taylor, with Moss in. I will say so one thing like I've thought about a lot this year is like this combined backfield. It's 27.5 points, and it looks like it's, let's say 60-40 or maybe 70-30 JT. Let's say JT gets 80 or 90%, then he becomes a really good play. Like if Moss is in, I think they said he'd be projected for around 20-21 points with Moss out. So I think JT's okay. Moss in is came in early enough that I think people are now not even thinking about JT as much.
Yeah, I agree.
Brees Hall going to be 50% in single entry. Yeah, I mean they're showing 44%, and they've been low on everything. That's not necessarily. Maybe it is their fault because you should probably adjust by now, but this has been a meta across multiple sports, multiple slates, like in NBA, even like um, the good chalk is just way, 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 way higher owned.
Yeah, yeah.
Like people are starting to use Sims and like use that to justify like, oh, the Sims told me I could play the good chalk guy, but if ever, and this is like a rant that we might not have time for, but if everyone agrees that Brees Hall is a good play at 30%, and then he comes in at 60%, he's not a good play anymore.
Right.
Like
But what if
30% is
people
very
think that's going to happen? And then he comes at
eventually.
25%.
Eventually, we'll get there. We're not there yet. I don't think we're there yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
The importance of being a Freemason. Apparently, Travis Kelsey and Aaron Rodgers both got hurt at the 30-yard line, so they got inducted into the Freemason Hall of Fame. I don't know. I don't have anything there. Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, 41 total. I think this is like a sneakily, like, I don't know that I would say it's a shootout, but I think that there's opportunities for both, some of these receivers to get off. Like both teams have good, two good receivers. Anything you like here?
Um, you know, I have 0 Trevor Lawrence so far, but I still have some lineups to build. And, everybody's kind of off T-Law because he's just been a flourish, kind of mid flourish. He hasn't blown up and done anything. But, if I think that Calvin Ridley can finally have a game, Christian Kirk's playing well, Evan Ingram still hasn't been in the end zone. Pittsburgh's pass defense is pretty bad, which is a little bit weird because their pass rush is pretty good.
Yeah.
So, if Dougie P can do some scheming and whatnot, there's going to be some places to eat. And I don't think that they're going to be able to run the ball that effectively against Pittsburgh. So this is a spot I might want to look at, like stacking T-Law up with a couple guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason,
I like it.
Yeah, the reason why T-Law seems flourish is because he's thrown
Right.
8 touchdowns in 7 weeks, which
Right.
is like shocking, and that's obviously why ETN has been eating, in the red zone, especially the last, let's say, 3 weeks. So yeah, at some point that switch should flip. And yeah, like Ridley won't be 3%. He's been talked about too much. But 5, 6, even 8% Ridley, I think, is very, very fine. A T-Law double makes all the sense in the world. I have this note here, some big games that, Ayuk 129 yards, Devontae 172, Nico 168, Puka 154. Is that a thing where, it could also be Christian Kirk, right? Like I think every
it could be.
big sharp or real sharp bro wants to play Ridley. But it can very easily just be Christian Kirk too. Like this is one, if Ridley comes in like the same owned as Kirk, like I won't care. I think it's fine. He's got the ceiling.
Yeah.
Anything on Pittsburgh that you like? We kind of glossed over. I think we're both into Jacksonville.
Yeah, no. The only thing I'll say is I do think you have to bring this back. The only way Trevor Lawrence is putting up a bigger game that he hasn't done this year is if they get pushed. And so I think it is important to bring it back if you're going to stack this game up. And so then I think you got to look at Pickens and Deontay. I can't go to the cheaper stuff here.
No, yeah.
Maybe Warren if you're in the flip to build kind of thing, but it's not for me this week.
I don't think there's enough there. Yeah, I'm into Pickens. 8 targets last week, so like 10 the week before. 8 last week was with Deontay back already. I think you got to go ceiling hunting here. Obviously, this is a good game here, or at least we all seem to think so. Houston at Carolina. Houston, 3.5 point favorites, 43.5 total. We've talked a lot about Dell and Nico already. I think we like both of them, perhaps not both together. I feel like Stroud is going to come in like second tier chalk because of that. But anything else here is like very low owned.
Yeah. One thing I have to shout out, last year's basketball darling at the end, and he's just failed for a long, long time, is Dame Pierce. His line is finally healthy for the most part, and they're coming off of a bye. And, an argument could be made. Devin Singletary's role was bigger last week. I think combination of they knew that they had to buy, the line's coming back, a little bit of rest, like mini, I'm just telling myself a story. I like Dame Pierce a lot. Dalton Schultz is one of the best leverage plays on the slate, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I do think that, you know, Chuba's role has been incredible. You know, who knows with them changing the play caller, but the script looks bad, and the script looks like a place where Chuba gets to keep that role. And if he does at 4,800, I'm going to be an enjoyer. And on Adam Thielen, he's priced up now, but is he
Yeah.
still underpriced for what his
Yeah.
role has been? I would argue probably yes. And
Yeah.
at 12%,
Yeah.
I'm going to have some. I'm going to have some.
Yeah. My only concern is like Thielen is the populated run back in this game.
Yeah.
So I like
So
it
it's important to
more.
have Schultz on the other
Yeah.
side.
Yeah. I think that's a good call. Or if you're just doing minis, I like Thielen. But if you roll
Yeah.
out like Shroud, Dell, Nico, Thielen, I think that combo, well,
Yeah.
I mean, that exact combo is only going to be like 0.5% owned, like in total. But it will be the most popular of the, like, you know, the double with the bring back. But yeah, I think it's a really good spot. You know, Carolina pass defense is very, very banged. It was very bad, and now it's banged up on top of bad.
Yeah.
And I like your call on Dameon Pierce as well. They're coming off the bye, like Singletary. Maybe this is wish casting. Singletary seemed to be playing ahead of him a little bit, or at least even with him. But off the bye, maybe they figured something out with Pierce as they're healthy. Last one for me, Jonathan Mingo. I'm like on this Mingo Martingale. I think at some point, like they are gonna have to see what they have with Mingo, and he's already playing in 3 wide, and they don't really run. They mostly run 3 wide, so he's on the field a lot.
Yeah, I think especially with the play calling change, that
Yeah.
Mingo enjoyers and even Chark dart throwers should give it another week, because maybe he finds a way. Because you know, the problem is Bryce Young can't get the ball down the field and stuff. And maybe if this guy schemes things up a little different, has these guys not running 40-yard posts, you know.
Yep. Eagles are at Washington. This is an in-division rematch. Philly's a 7-point favorite on the road, 43.5 total here. I wonder if, so here's one thing that I think could be weird is that because Hurts and Lamar are basically the only 2 guys in play in cash, and Lamar is like 100 cheaper, it seems the consensus is all like, hey, I'm just going to save the 100, play Lamar. It's the later game. Hurts is banged up. Like that's how I'll break the tie. So I wonder if you can sneak Hurts by the field. And like, even at this ownership, it's like really not that bad. So actually, I kind of like this game. It played competitive the first time around in Philly. So maybe that actually forces the Eagles to like not mess around. But that's just me telling a story. What do you like in this game?
No, I mean, I've told myself the same story. The combinatorial ownership of Hurts with like pass catcher 1, pass catcher 2 is going to be extremely low in tournaments, in my opinion. I just do not see the field spending this kind of money in you know, today, and this is why I'm getting to things like Chuba and Dame Pierce and Justice Hill, is because I want to pay for this stuff. AJ Brown has you know, 1 million yards per game in the last 4 games. I believe it's approximately 1 million yards per game.
Yeah.
And it's just ridiculous. And then another fun way to be different, to me, if you want to spend more money, and again, why I'm trying to save money, is to not bring it back and play the Eagles defense. I mean, fuck it, dude. Like Sam Howell may get sacked 12 times, and
you got to find a lot of money for that.
You do, but I can assure you it can be done.
Yeah, the Eagles sacked Howell 5 times last time out. It's just they gave up 31 points. So
yeah,
we'll see if they get all the sacks and some turnovers instead of points. It definitely makes sense.
My only concern here is division matchup 2. Historically, that's not the best, but I don't think it matters today.
Yeah. One thing to keep in mind, like, well, you saw more than anyone. That was a national televised game, but the Washington secondary is atrocious. It was ripped up by the ghost of Justin Fields with DJ Moore, and to some extent Cole Kmet. AJ Brown should eat. Devontae Smith, like, I think not Steichen, what's his name? Sirianni. I think he loves like he loves being a player's coach, and I think he's if they can, they're going to go out of their way to get AJ Brown this record of 125 yards. But Devontae Smith at 1% owned.
Yeah.
He's been bad this year, but like he's a Heisman winner. He's good player. So if they can, I think they want to get him cooking too. But I think AJ Brown eats first, AJ Brown eats second, and then Devontae Smith probably can eat after
Yeah.
that.
OS, if you're talking cost adjusted, then I think it's Shaheed. But I mean, if you're talking straight up, I mean, it's Olave by a bunch.
I like them both.
Yeah, I like him.
I think you sneak Shaheed by the field if MT is out. I would not play Shaheed if MT was in. One last thing, Philadelphia still is a pass funnel. Their secondary is like starting to get healthier. Obviously, the pass rush is good, but like if you beat the Eagles for points, it's going to be via the air. McLaurin at 5,300 is one of those guys that can pop off for 20, 30 points. It's not super high owned. I would prefer Samuel to be out. But he might miss. I'm not seeing any prop lines up. So like, man, Dotson out 0.5%. Soaking targets, season high 22.6. Yeah. It's just like, if I have to believe his ceiling is higher than 22.6 to be excited about playing him into like semi chalk is the only thing. But I think like I would only play it in bringbacks.
Yeah.
My thought.
And that game's on tape. I don't like it. I think the Eagles are going to adjust, and it's going to go really, really poorly.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Rams at Dallas. This might just be like my dumb brain, but I was like really surprised that Dallas is hosting a 1 o'clock game. I feel like they've been playing at 4 o'clock for my entire life. But anyway, they're pretty big favorites. 45.5 total is third on the slate. Nobody on the Rams is getting owned. You know, we've talked a little bit about Pollard already, and you know we both kind of like Ferguson. Gallup is like, you know, the only sub 4K receiver that people want to click. I for sure don't. But yeah, anything you like in this game?
Yeah, the one thing I'm going to say about Gallup is people are latching on to the 10 targets with 0 success last week. And I think that is the most fragile thing ever. I think that in a bye week, in an off week, they look at that tape and they're just like, okay, those targets were ridiculous, and we need to get Fergie back involved and use more Brandon Cooks. Like, I don't see that going anywhere. I'm going to tell one quick story about Cooper Kupp, 9K Cooper Kupp. Dallas's defense is hashtag maybe not that good, especially with injuries, but their pass rush is pretty ferocious. And I really like Sean McVay dialing up this like underneath Cooper Kupp thing, the safety valve Cooper Kupp thing. And I think he's going to get peppered with a lot of targets today. And, you know, if a couple of those come in the red zone area, I really like Cooper Kupp on the other side of this game. I think it's a bounce back week for him. And then last thing is Tyler Higbee. Nobody's going to play Tyler Higbee, and it's probably correct to not play Tyler Higbee, but Dallas is pretty weak against the tight end. If McVay wants to use that, if that's how he draws it up, you could see a weird Higbee game.
I don't know that I can go there, man.
I don't know that I can go there. I don't
think there's enough ceiling. Yeah, Cooper Kupp, it's hard to get there at 9K. And I think Pollard is probably my priority, biggest priority at running back. Yeah, that's pretty much all that I have here. I'm not really into Dak at all.
Nope.
New England, Miami, 46.5 total, sneakily number one on the slate, and nobody will be owned except for like maybe Kendrick Bourne, like maybe Tyreek Hill, but like, dude, not even. The only notes that I had here is like, I wanted to play Demario Douglas. Usage actually sneakily pretty good. He's a rookie, he's starting to emerge. They're likely to have to tilt to pass, but doo-doo shit poopster might be back. And like, we all know definitely back. Yeah. So like, we all know that he sucks, but like,
right.
Does Bill O'Brien know that he sucks? Does Bill Belichick know that he sucks? Yeah, he's not even listed on the injury report.
So yeah, like, doo-doo is the problem with this game. Doo-doo plus it's a division game too, plus New England played pretty well the last week or 2 weeks. And I just have this game as a slugfest that just, The best parts about this game are super expensive, and I don't think that they can get there. And that's the story I'm telling myself.
Yeah.
And on the New England pass catching cheaper side, I'm just telling myself doo-doo's a problem in terms of, are they going to do a weird rotation? Nobody's really going to kind of get there. I don't like it. I don't like anything in this game. I don't have a single player in this game.
Yeah. Like I wanted to be like Mostert, is in the conversation for like RB2 on this season and on this slate. And he's going to be 2% owned, but he's banged up. There's some coaches speak about how they want to get Jeff Wilson the ball a little bit more. So yeah, 7,700, even though he's only 2%. Like, I'm not super into that. Waddle, man, like they got to price Waddle down at some point. He's
Yeah,
really
for
not
sure.
done anything to deserve 7,500. Like I would love to play him at 6,900. Anyway, that's just it's pretty much a stay away for me. But I might do like Tyreek with Douglas, just like as a little mini, but low confidence. Speaking of low confidence, is not something that I have about Brees Hall. Very high confidence in this matchup against the Giants, and then everybody else in this game is 3% or lower. There's a really so 35-point total. I think is like the lowest of any non-weather game in decades. Even though the game right next door is at 35.5. But anyway, I think we both like Brees Hall like just fine. I will hate that I play him when he's 50% owned in some of my stuff, but
Yeah. If I was 150 maxer, I would have fun with like two Zach Wilson, Garrett Wilson lineups, but no
yeah,
thanks. You know, Saquon maybe is interesting as a Tony Pollard-esque pivot, not getting owned with a pretty decent projection at 8K.
yeah,
I just don't want to attack the Jets like that. I don't like it. I don't like it. And Tyrod has at least gotten Darren Waller cooking a little bit, which I'm just going to accept that as a gift to my best ball portfolio. But I can't click that at 5,200. I can't do it.
yeah. I do like Garrett Wilson as a guy who like if in the right circumstances would be like a at least 7K, if not like 8K receiver. He's just obviously not going to get all the way there with Zach Wilson, but they, coming off the bye, 12 targets the week before, 7, 14, 9, 8. Like the usage is still elite. It's just a matter of, you know, can they do it with Zach Wilson? But against this Giants defense, I think, this could be in Wink Martindale, one of the highest, if at the highest blitz coordinator in the league. So like, could they use Garrett Wilson as a blitz breaker type thing? Was one thing that I'm starting to think about. So, it's leverage off of Brees Hall as well. So I actually think I will try and force, let's say 5%, like just get double the field on Garrett Wilson. And yeah, I think Waller deserves to be more than 1% owned. It's just like, what are his odds of breaking the slate? Like if you get 15 points from Waller, I think you're happy. And then Kittle comes and drops 15 or 18 or 30 and it doesn't matter. So
Yeah.
Atlanta, Tennessee, it's the master versus the disciple there. The Arthur Smith versus Vrabel here. Bijan's going to be 10% owned and literally no one else because it's a 35.5 point total. Anything you like here besides Bijan?
Nope. Congratulations to the Drake London Derrick Henry mini enjoyers. I wish I could get there, but I can't.
Yeah. No, I can't
Can't do it.
get to. No, I don't think it makes sense to play Henry a whole lot. I mean, even though again, like a 0.5% owned, like do you do it? But I'm not getting
Not
there
for
with
me.
Tennessee. I've been playing Ritter in London every week for the past month, and I've been happy so far. And the Titans are past funnel, and the Falcons, not last week only 25, but 47 and 37. Or sorry, let me go back in time. 25 pass attempts, 47, 37, 31, 38, 32. So this is like, I understand they play slow and they definitely want to run the ball first. But if for some reason, and maybe this is why it makes sense to play Henry, if the Falcons, when they've been forced to pass, have actually passed a little more, and they've concentrated it a lot around Drake London.
Yeah.
So I will be playing, a fair bit of Ritter and London at this ownership. That's all.
I just want to point out one thing for TD. I'm especially at ownership. I'm not an Atlanta defense guy. Like the
I don't
one,
think it matters a whole lot, though.
yeah,
Like,
it
I don't
doesn't.
think defense
You're right.
ownership matters a whole lot.
Vrabel doesn't put his rookie quarterback in as much of a situation as other QBs do. Like he's
Yeah.
going to have his arms tied behind his back, so
Yeah.
those huge
I think they'd be
mistakes
happy
are
to
going to
throw
be
it like
less.
0 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Like, I'm like neutral on it. I don't think it's a high like ceiling spot unless Will Levis like absolutely shits himself, because I think it's likely to be the lowest pass attempts of any team
Right.
on the slate. So for ceiling hunting, that's probably the reason to get off it. Minnesota, Green Bay, a lot of division games this week. 41.5 totals, like not super high. And yeah, the JJJ-less Vikings team, sort of consolidating around Addison and Hawkinson. But anything you like here?
Yeah, I'm a big fan, a big enjoyer of Minnesota RB, Minnesota defense stacks here. I'm willing to play Cam Akers today. I don't like Madison, but I'm willing to play Madison today. And yeah, I'm not getting to a whole lot in this passing game, and I'm not getting to anything on the Green Bay side. Green Bay is just really, really bad, dude. I don't know if they can figure it out, if Aaron Jones getting healthier and healthier, but he's still on a pitch count.
Yeah.
So, just Brian Flores is really in a fucking groove with his blitzing and with this defense. Danielle Hunter's the sack leader. I don't like anything on the Green Bay side, so I'm very interested in Minnesota's defense today, and maybe some big. I'm interested. I like it a lot.
I think the Vikings defense is definitely going to come in. They're a good play, but I think they come in 10-15%. I think they're the cheap one that people are comfortable with. So yeah, like I wish we knew it would be Madison or Akers. It started to be Madison, but Akers had his biggest role of the season. Like the second half of last week's game. So that's my only concern here. Addison again fits that build of like that, the mid 5Ks receiver with a super high ceiling. It's not he's gotten there from efficiency more than volume. So, obviously he scored 2 touchdowns last week, but he's gotten 6 touchdowns on the season, 4 in the last 3 weeks.
And it's the direct weakness of the Green Bay defense is the run game, and especially the pass catching run game.
Yeah. No, sorry, I'm talking about Jordan Addison, not Madison.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
Like Jordan Addison has gotten there through catching touchdowns in like just winning at the like they've dialed down the volume a bit and they've spread it. Hawkinson getting a lot of volume. Addison, got 10 targets last week, but like, he's more in like the 7-ish range, even without Jefferson. So
yeah, I'm not ready for 5,700 Addison yet.
Yeah, when you get
willing,
to
but
Olave, Shaheed with Carr.
No, Derek Carr stinks.
Yeah, I'd rather just play
Derek Carr. Yeah,
you could play Carr. I think you could play in like a milli. You could do it. I wouldn't hate it, honestly. Like I think that the culture defense is bad. Everyone thinks that though. I think you could do it.
Hey, GM.
Hey, are you multi-accounting, or has someone else psyops themselves into wanting to play Derek Carr? I think you guys are the only 2 people out there. Cleveland, Seattle, nobody is owned here, rightfully so. 2 very good defenses, 37.5 total.
Yeah, I didn't know that this game was on the slate, and I'm just going to ignore it now that I do know it. Thank you.
Yep, I'm with you.
If you want to play Kareem Hunt, go ahead. I don't want to, but fine.
Seattle's not giving up. Seattle's most they've given up to a backfield this year is 91 yards. And if Ford is maybe back, no, I'm out.
Well, I didn't realize Ford is maybe back. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Don't practice and was like shockingly fine.
So it's a 12 gamer. Just exit out.
Yeah. Kansas City, Denver, 46 total. people are like talking about wind and snow, and then Roth is like, it's not really gonna be much there. The total dropped from 47 to 46, so it doesn't seem like a whole lot. I think Pacheco is fine. Um, I'm not excited. I'd actually much rather play Mahomes and Kelsey when it's not like a huge difference, but like let's say in small field, Hurts and Lamar are like 15%, and I can get Mahomes at 5 to 8. And the other thing, like the Sims love Kelsey Mahomes because every time Mahomes gets there, no, sorry, every time Kelsey gets there, Mahomes gets there, and like 70% of the times Mahomes gets there, Kelsey gets there. So it's like you get the spot right a lot. And when you do, it helps a lot. So
Yeah. Yeah, this is one of the games where if I was playing a lot of lineups, I would really, really like to get involved with the Mahomes Kelsey stuff. But as a more single entry through max, lower, I'm just not
yeah,
able to get here. I just don't like it that much. Is Justin Watson back, by the way? Because
yeah,
the only reason I mentioned that is just because now you got Rashee Rice up to 5K, and it's just like, what
yeah,
is going to happen? There's a lot of questions there.
yeah. Rashi Rice is too like
I don't think you can
he's like
play him at
barely.
5K.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I don't think so either. Yeah, can you give me like? I think one thing, if you are playing this, I think they're so low owned, you don't have to do like it'll be low enough owned, you don't have to do it. But if you want a differentiator and you could pick correct between Sutton and Judy at 2% owned max, I think that's very good. I don't have any lean here. I
Yeah.
think Judy stinks.
Last chance to showcase Jerry Judy before Tuesday. Good
Yeah,
luck with that.
yeah. I I've got nothing like the this was this is the second game in division. The last one was the Steve Smith. Was it Steve Smith or was it Sherm? No, Steve Smith that was making fun of Jerry Judy,
Yeah.
and Jerry Judy
It
did
was
not prove him wrong.
hilarious.
Uh, so yeah, Cincinnati, San Francisco, seems Brock Purdy is going to be playing 43 and a half total is like fairly healthy for the slate. I think this game gets like secondary, um, chalk here, because even with Debo out, people want to play Purdy more because now you just know, hey, I'm going to stack it with Kittle, with Ayuk. Um, and I guess Chase is being brought along as a bring back. I don't like playing Chalk Jamar Chase in what might be a tough matchup.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, this is a huge get right spot for San Francisco. They lost 2 games in a row. It looks like Purdy's going to play. Um, I really like this a lot. A couple notes I would say is this is the afternoon game for swaps. Everything in this is going to be dependent on how the noon games and stuff go in terms of how this ownership shakes out, in my opinion. And a couple quick notes. Ayuk at 7K is they say 14%. No way. No way. He is invisible on this slate. I can't imagine that he gets to over 10%. And I do have a question, a serious question. Juwan Jennings' role last week was legit.
Mm,
At
mm.
3,800 in a game in this situation, what it could happen, I don't think there's anything wrong with clicking Juwan Jennings in your doubles. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Like I'm actually getting way above the field on Juwan Jennings. I don't know that I'll actually allow that to happen. I don't think that there's a ceiling there. It's just like
Yeah, I
it's
don't
just a
know.
price thing, and it lets you pay for other ceilings. It's like if you're doing like a Kelsey thing, like he helps you get there. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm much more into like I think Kittle at 8% is very fine. If not a good play, I think he probably could even be up to 12%.
Yeah, if I
CMC is
was going to
another
IKB, I would swap Ayuk and Kittle's ownership. I feel like that's more realistic.
yeah. And
But
then T Higgins, I think at 5,900 is a very good play. And one thing that I'm like thinking about here is like I know I talked about I don't love Jamar Chase, and but I will say like if Brock Purdy at 5,600 is 9% owned and Joe Burrow at 6K is 4%, I understand the 49ers are likelier to win this game, obviously at home, but you can't tell me that Joe Burrow at 4% with these weapons doesn't have a higher ceiling than Brock Purdy. And I love Purdy. I might be one of the biggest Purdy fans out
Yeah.
there, but I think
And they're
Burrow
coming off the
is
bye. And
extremely versatile.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're coming off the bye. He's as healthy as you can imagine he's going to be.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, so actually, I think I kind of really like the Burrow leverage here. And then last game, we made it. Baltimore at Arizona, almost 10-point favorites, 9.5, 44.5 total. You got, Lamar, Zay, and McBride come preloaded into lineups. That's about it.
Yeah. I mean, this is not that exciting, in terms of a game. That happens every game that involves Arizona, right? Even though
Yeah.
Arizona keeps coming out and keeps like playing hard, they're like the underdog champion of the world. Like everybody loves seeing Dobbs the Gam, right? Like
Yeah.
he just seems to do cool stuff while losing by 3 touchdowns every week. Um, but just looking at this right now, I mean, my God, how easy is it to flip this thing around and go Lamar, Manders, and you know Mike Wilson, DeMercado, some other, you know what I mean? Like to get the same access to, I don't know. I think it's good leverage play. Manders is really good leverage here. The problem is the
Yeah.
cost, obviously.
Yeah.
But in tournaments, you want to get different. Like that's a good spot. And then Hollywood, one of the shows was talking about it. He keeps coming in as a great projection, and his ownership up and this and that. McBride is probably going to pull at that this week. So if you are
Yep.
itching to play Hollywood in the revenge spot, there, boom, Lemandrews, Hollywood, the full
Yep.
Ravens.
Yep. Yeah. I think Nate is onto it here where, yeah, you are paying up a lot more than the field, but then you just have to find ways to get, save money. So you're probably not playing, Pollard. You might want to sneak in,
Tube,
or Chuba. Like, yeah,
Dane.
not my favorite. Yeah, you're taking on some uncertainty to get there, but I think that, is definitely a plus EV, a little pivot there. And then Downs and Falcons versus Shaheed and Jets on FanDuel. I think you're just taking on like Michael Thomas has to be out. Otherwise, Shaheed is not in play.
Yeah,
Um,
I couldn't
so
play Shaheed on FanDuel, just period. I don't
he's got to
think.
score to get there. I assume he's like very cheap.
Yeah,
And yeah,
yeah.
so I would if Michael Thomas is out and you're itching to play Shaheed, I think you can sneak Shaheed, by the field for sure. Nice. You wanna go make a lineup? You wanna fuck around, find
Yeah.
out? You wanna fuck around in the
Let's make a
lineup?
lineup. Let's
All
make
right.
a lineup, and I'm gonna fuck around real quick.
All right.
You load that up.
Yep.
This week, my number one fuck around and find out. You guessed it. You know it. It's Dame Pierce. It's Dame Pierce is the perfect leverage off Adam Thielen. That mini is one of my favorite on the slate, and I am going to fuck around and find out if he's our guy.
Are you putting him in this lineup? Because I'm not going to hit submit.
I'm gonna let you do something first.
Yeah. Man, I've really talked myself into. I think the Cincinnati San Francisco game is going to be good.
Okay.
And if Purdy is going to be 10% owned and I am going to get 4% owned Burrow, I want to play Burrow. Can I get Burrow? And can I just play can I play Burrow?
Do your
At Chase?
stack. Do your stack.
Yeah. I want to put Kittle in here too. But I've
Yeah,
already
bring,
made like
bring
half
it
this
back.
lineup. Yeah. All right. But yeah,
Let me
that's
see the
this
cost
is
here.
my fuck around and find out.
Can you go to DST and plug in the Vikings for now, or
Yeah.
see or New
Yeah.
England, whatever? I don't care.
Yep.
55.25 per. Okay, yeah, I am doing it. I'm going Dame Pierce, Adam Thielen.
I think that is fine. And then a 5,100. Well, do we have like a cheap? I don't like Gallup. I think let's see what if we put Brees in, that leaves us 4,300. 4,300 going once. I don't see anyone. I don't see anyone at 4,300. If we go down at defense to the
Patriots is fine,
Patriots.
in my
Dude,
opinion.
what about the Cardinals at home against? If we're not even playing Lamar, Lamar can turn it over. And you get Kendrick Bourne in here at 47. Where do you know? No, I think you got to play Brees here. We're going off the wall. I think Kendrick Bourne.
Yeah. Did we just win $1 million?
I don't know about we, but I did. If this wins, I'm not going to send you half, but I'll give you.
You fixed the.
Yeah, it's
yeah, I love it.
My brain is broken.
Easy.
All right.
Fuck around and find out. Tell me what.
Dude, I think it's the T Higgins. I think it's T Higgins.
Yeah.
And a 2% owned. Coming off the bye. I don't know if it's a squeaky wheel, but I think that they are gonna have to like lean pass here, like Joe Mixon, send Joe Mixon to 0.
Yeah. Why play Joe Mixon at 5,800 this week when you can get him at 5,200 next week?
Yeah.
Easy.
Yes, I think T Higgins is my like wide receiver 2 off the wall. He's too cheap, even though he sucks play.
I have one more really quick. Cooper Kupp, loaded up. 15 targets, 2 touchdowns. Easy.
He's never had 40.6 points.
Well, I'll take 40.5. Just fine.
Yeah. My second, if I had to, Ritter in London. I'm just going to keep running that until the field catches up. Worst GM just in time for us to say goodbye. Thanks for stopping by. All we've got for you today. We'll be back next week. Thanks for stopping in. Good luck in your contests. Yeah.
Bye.